I mean, look at him. My desire might be to make of this boy an ardent husband, a caring citizen, a worshipper of abstract and unifying God. My achievement, however, is more likely to make a ghost.
What if I told you that one of Hollywood's most iconic love stories didn't just shock the world, it nearly destroyed two of its brightest stars? Imagine this. Elizabeth Taylor, the most glamorous woman in the world, at the center of a scandal so explosive that the Vatican itself condemned her as morally unfit. But it wasn't just the public backlash that shattered her. What if I told you that her lover, Richard Burton, a man known for his talent and charm, spiraled into a life of self-destruction that no one saw coming? From violent fights to secret marriages and devastating financial falls, their story is far darker than the tabloids ever let on. Stick around, because what you're about to hear will make you question everything you thought you knew about fame, fortune, and the price of love in Hollywood's golden age. You won't believe what happened next. Imagine a boy born into a world where coal dust clung to every breath, yet destined for the brightest stages. Richard Walter Jenkins Jr. entered life on November 10th, 1925, as the 12th of 13 children in Pontrhydyfen, Wales, a village so steeped in poverty that dreams seemed impossible. His mother's sudden death when he was just shy of 2 left a void darker than the mine shafts his father descended each day. That absence became Richard's earliest loss, and his father's descent into drinking and gambling only deepened the scars. But destiny intervened when Philip Burton, a dedicated teacher with a keen eye for raw talent, rolled up his sleeves and sculpted the awkward boy into a commanding actor. Burton's rigorous coaching in speech and drama transformed Richard's thick Welsh accent into a weapon of charisma. When he adopted Philip's surname and secured a place at Oxford, the world began to take notice of the young man, whose voice could tremble with vulnerability or roar with royal authority. In 1951, Richard burst onto the Shakespeare Memorial Theatre stage as Prince Hal, electrifying audiences with a blend of raw energy and intense focus that prompted one critic to confess he'd never seen Hal brought to life with such vivid humanity. Even Hollywood royalty Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall packed the house to witness this Welsh force of nature at work, and Richard celebrated by buying his very first car before slipping into the Dirty Duck pub for a celebratory pint with Bogart himself. Brace yourself for the next act, because Burton's journey didn't stop at Shakespeare. He stormed Broadway in 1960 as King Arthur in Camelot, earning a Tony Award and solidifying his reputation as a multi-dimensional talent. Despite the daunting transition from tragedy to musical, his portrayal of a lonely monarch wrestling with broken ideals resonated so deeply that Camelot became the soundtrack of an era. So much so that Jackie Kennedy confessed she drifted to sleep, listening to Burton's voice crooning Arthur's hopeful refrains. On the silver screen, Burton's first American triumph came with My Cousin Rachel, where his brooding intensity opposite Olivia de Havilland earned him an Oscar nomination and a Golden Globe as the most promising newcomer. He followed that with The Robe, the first CinemaScope spectacle to captivate cinemagoers worldwide, then tackled the sprawling epic Alexander the Great. Though the latter stumbled at the box office, Burton's determination to explore ambitious, thought-provoking roles marked him as an actor unwilling to settle for easy fame. Off-screen, his romantic life was a whirlwind worthy of its own drama. He chased starlit affairs with Lana Turner and reportedly courted Joan Collins so fiercely she slapped down his advances on set. Rumors swirled of a long-running liaison with Marilyn Monroe, an intoxicating blend of Twilight glamour and dangerous secrets. But nothing could prepare him for the magnetic pull he felt when he met Elizabeth Taylor on Cleopatra's lavish Roman set. And then came the moment that stopped the world. Burton, hungover and trembling, looked at Taylor with raw vulnerability and asked her, "Hold this, love. Will you hold it to my mouth?" That simple gesture ignited a love affair so fierce it exploded across front pages, bumping even John Glenn's historic Orbit off the headlines. Paparazzi chased them through Rome, capturing stolen kisses on sun-drenched yachts and fueling a media maelstrom that would define tabloid culture for decades. Behind the velvet curtain of fame, Burton's financial empire was as dramatic as his onstage triumphs. He drove a collection of classic cars that reflected his status, everything from a sleek Jaguar E-Type to a custom-painted Rolls-Royce Phantom. On his wrist, he favored Patek Philippe timepieces, each ticking with the precision of a man who valued craftsmanship. But perhaps the greatest lesson from Burton's roller coaster life is that even the most dazzling star can burn too brightly without solid foundations. His early losses taught him resilience, his mentor's guidance taught him humility, and his relentless pursuit of excellence taught him that true legacy is forged in both applause and adversity. Burton, once considered one of the greatest actors of his generation, saw his career take a dive in the 1970s with a string of forgettable films. The dazzling heights of his past, including iconic roles in The Spy Who Came In From the Cold and Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, now seemed distant. His career was overshadowed by personal demons, and by the late 70s, he had become a shadow of his former self. Despite earning Oscar nominations for his gripping performances, his personal life, which had often intersected with his professional one, left an indelible mark on his legacy. As we look at his current net worth and his fall from grace, it's clear that his spending habits, his love for luxury, art, jewels, and high-profile purchases were as extravagant as his on-screen persona. At his peak, Burton had a net worth that reflected his fame, but by his death in 1984, his fortune had dwindled, largely due to his lifestyle choices. Taylor, on the other hand, continued to command attention well into her later years. The wealth she accumulated through her marriages, particularly to Burton, and her successful brand partnerships, most notably with jewelry companies, allowed her to build a legacy that extended far beyond her acting career. As she aged, Taylor's financial portfolio grew, with a significant amount of her wealth invested in real estate, including multi-million-dollar properties around the world. Her net worth saw a resurgence, largely due to her strategic business moves, including her partnership with the cosmetics company, which allowed her to maintain her status as a Hollywood icon long after the movies stopped coming. Burton's tragic passing at the age of 58 was a shock, but the struggles that led to it were not entirely unexpected. The heavy drinking, the public divorces, and the emotional volatility had taken their toll. His final years were marked by health issues that were compounded by his lifestyle choices, a stark contrast to the high-flying days when he was the star of the silver screen. It's painful to think that someone who had once been the toast of Hollywood's elite, a man who seemed unstoppable, could fade into obscurity so quickly. In his final role, Burton played a chilling character in 1984, his performance infused with a deep sense of foreboding, as if he had already faced his own mortality. His death in 1984 from a cerebral hemorrhage was the final chapter in a life that had been as intense as any of his film roles. The legacy he left behind, however, is undeniable. Despite never winning an Oscar, his contribution to cinema was immense, and his place in Hollywood history remains cemented. Meanwhile, Elizabeth Taylor's legacy continued to evolve. She became a philanthropist, supporting causes such as AIDS research, and her personal life stabilized with later marriages. Even though their passionate love affair with Burton ultimately ended in a second divorce, her career and her wealth surged. Taylor's ability to reinvent herself, her resilience in the face of scandal, and her undying connection to the public's imagination made her an enduring figure in both Hollywood and pop culture. As for their collective financial legacies, both Burton and Taylor amassed fortunes that mirrored their tumultuous personal lives. Their net worths, though diminished at different points due to the high cost of their lifestyles, still remain as testaments to their larger-than-life personas. For Taylor, the investments in luxury real estate, art, and business ventures kept her secure financially, while Burton's later years were marked by a battle against his declining health and financial instability. Yet even as the years have passed, their names continue to reverberate through Hollywood, their passion and tragedy immortalized on screen and in the annals of history. Their lives may have been filled with dramatic highs and devastating lows, but the impact they left on both the industry and their fans is undeniable, ensuring their stories remain timeless.